What's up, guys? Akariss here. Alright, beginning the Plumeria video with actually kind of like a look at this banner and like how it could appeal to you or different players. This is what I usually do in all these Legendary Mythic banners. So instead of a funny joke or nothing, I'm just going to give my opinion on the banner overall. To put it bluntly, blue is probably a skip for most people, and colorless might be a skip for most people, but the reason those two may appeal to you, and maybe even green could be a skip, it depends, but mostly I want to say like blue and colorless don't really stand out here unless you need merges on like Leaf and you're okay with Duma while still getting good fodder from Julian. And then blue would pretty much be, I gotta finish up Ephraim and Lucina because they've been sharing every single time while picking up Joint Drive Attack, which happens to be pretty good fodder. So if you're one of those few lucky people, those colors appeal to you. But obviously the great appeal of this banner would likely be green and red. Green having Ground Rover's fodder or Attack Res Bond 4 from Micaiah being like the kicker, Yoon still being generally most people's projects unless somehow you've merged or up for I'd say dark defenses, and red really being like the nice thing of the banner, obviously for many reasons which the whole video will cover. But generally speaking, you have two distant counter users in the form of Seliph and Lif at bare minimum, with what is obviously going to be a very impactful Astra Mythic. So without further ado, we'll jump into the video. Hey guys, so here it is, finally. I mean, I guess for some people, finally. It is Plumeria. So Plumeria was actually one of the most popular characters of the vote on CYL, despite pretty much no one knowing anything about her at that point. Probably for very specific reasons. I'm gonna give my opinion on what I think of Plumeria overall, and then we'll go into the specifics here. So, in my opinion, as a competitive player, I do not feel that Plumeria is a good addition to the game. Now, you can respectfully agree or disagree in the comments. It's totally up to you. I think if you play this game at a more casual level and you're not, really competitive, then Plumeria is a good addition to the game. And I totally respect players who just want to have an easy time going through the game. But for competitiveness, it is a problem, because if the game overall becomes too easy for everyone, then the only people who win are those that have the biggest wallets, because then it all just comes down to like a rat race of whoever has the most mythic merges. Kind of like what Arena is, whoever just has the highest scoring, highest merge units. You take away the challenge of the game, it just ends up being a wallet battle, and to me that's not really that fun, because again, it just takes away the competitive feel of the game. Plumeria overall just fits into like every single composition. This isn't like counterplay, okay? Like, you can't easily do isolation on defense. There isn't really much for a defense player to really design. You can kind of play into this, but not really. Like certain mythics, for example, Mila on offense, have counterplay. She has her isolation based on defense stat. So naturally you would put defense, like dancers on defense who have high defense, therefore don't get isolated. That's a form of counterplay. If your opponents all just have dancers, just like how Peony basically made Light Season really easy, Plumeria will make Astra Season significantly easier. And there isn't that much for people on defense to counterplay into it, makes it so everyone basically gets more lift from winning all the time. Combined with double up and escape ladder, yeah, the game just got easier for AR. So to me, that's a little bit hurtful, because now it means there's less of a skill gap between good players and bad players. But I can totally understand if you don't play the game at that level, how you probably are okay with this addition and how it will make your Astra season less suffering. Just my opinion though. I mean, you can agree or disagree, it's totally fine. I see both sides of the coin here. Anyways, so Plumeria. She has pretty much what we expected, I think. It's not really that much of a surprise. The biggest surprise here is like the skills she comes with. So first of all, her stat line is actually pretty min-maxed. She has low speed and low defense and extremely high attack and res. Generally speaking, this is okay for a dancer. It's not that great for soaking, which we'll cover later, which is like if you're trying to take a Dark Shrine or a Bright Shrine, it's going to be a problem because you would need high attack and speed to do Bright Shrine and high res and defense to take Dark Shrine. So there will be a problem when it comes to that, but generally speaking, high res means good support through the use of Sabotage, Ploys, chill res soaking, for instance, specifically, and a high attack again works for chill attack and making sure she secures the kills if she needs to do that. So generally speaking, a good stat spread. However, her skills don't necessarily, they're not as like she's not as good as Peony, but Peony's on a different, like you're not going to see these two side by side, so it doesn't really matter. It's how she interacts with our current Astra mythics and how she plays into the Anima mythics, which of course we'll cover. So her skills, she comes with attack res push 4, sabotage speed, attack res Rhine. Realistically speaking, the attack res push 4 and attack res Rhine are not really that useful and want to be subbed out. Sabotage speed can definitely stay there and it will be pretty good. I will cover why exactly you want to take those out, but generally speaking, Sabo speed is like the only base kit skill you want here, besides obviously her preference weapon and her dance skill or sing skill, whatever you want to call it. Her weapon is interesting. It's kind of like a adjacent from the side and 2 spaces above or below her. So what that means is a unit who is 2 spaces up and 1 space left or 1 space right with 3 spaces like this in distance, she can technically be supporting with extra attack and res. And this is actually really useful because the biggest Anima mythic threat is Thrasier, and she plays well into Thrasier, being able to tank her if needed or to support a unit who won't take as much damage against Thrasier. So definitely a good weapon and is able to provide herself enough distance to stay safe. Her dance is not as powerful as Peony's is, but it's not bad either. It only buffs 1 unit as opposed to everyone in cardinal directions. It doesn't give the ground orders effect, but it does debuff units who are pretty far away from the unit that you are singing, and quite significantly too. So of course sabotage skills and I would say ploys work well with her, but her dance skill does definitely hit quite a few targets, at least on the front line of an enemy defense team. She's a solid unit, a solid addition, and I'm sure many people will be happy to have and use her. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for my defense team, and probably most people's defense teams, as you'll see your lift loss increase, or rather, you will lose a lot more lift on defense now as a result of her being a unit. With that being said though, let's jump into some sample builds and how you would utilize that. I want to start off with a budget build that most people can probably pull off, which is going to be just subbing out her A skill and C skill as I mentioned for either Fury or Fortress Res. That's interchangeable. Even HP Res in the A skill could be pretty good. You're going to probably want a attack or Res boon initially, because this is just neutral and you can't assume you'll get neutral. If you can get attack or Res, is good. Neutral is not bad either since it puts you at a nice 46 HP. But generally, yeah, sabotage speed combined with attack ploy kind of works as a general, like, I'd say Tamari. You can't really run Tethys anymore if you were eventually going to switch over to a triple mythic setup using Altina, Naga, and Plumeria. So that only leaves you room for either a carry who gets supported by the 3 mythics, or using possibly Altina as the carry, which I will cover in the video as well. So this is how you kind of want to look at Plumeria's role to give long range support using Sabo speed, her dance, attack ploy, and her weapon overall. It's good. She has some pretty nice, she can do this pretty well, and I think do it in a way that'll make your AR experience much easier. Now, I want to naturally say, if you aren't a triple mythic, or even if you are, a good carry who will synergize with Plumeria as a kind of budget option is, of course, Matthew, as you guys will see under me. Matthew is a solid, he wanted Tethys like with Tamari initially, but I'd say that Plumeria works pretty well for him too. Just naturally, she has sabotage speed. And of course you can set up like attack ploy or sweet dreams to really enhance his damage right away. So if you have a Matthew, or maybe even thinking about it, doesn't have to be max like this, like even mid merges will do just fine. If you summon or support him, his HP stat ends up being just perfect for dodging tactics rooms and panic manners. You can even use a brazen if you feel like those buildings don't give you much trouble. So generally, yeah, Matthew is going to be just fine. Cronia also works, not covered in the video, but Cronia definitely just wants a dancer, so Plumeria will work just fine with her as well. Those are the two dominant Vantage carries, even in triple mythic. Now with a dancer, you can pull that off pretty easily. However, I do want to talk about the end game, you know, merges and whatnot, what you want to kind of eventually achieve, which will be something like this. And no, this is not a meme. This is a very good idea. Yes, that is a plus speed boon. No, this is not a troll. The reason you're going to want to do something like this is because of the Carry Altina build. So if you run into a triple mythic setup, you can actually use something like Carry Altina. I know you might not have a plus 10 Altina, you obviously won't have a plus 10 Plumeria, and of course, as I will cover in a moment, you probably don't have a plus 10 Naga, but these are end game goals to achieve if you really want to make your Astra season as smooth as possible. Now, hear me out here, the reason this will work really well is because Plumeria with plus speed boon is able to successfully chill soak off of Altina with Bright Shrines and chill attacks, chill speeds and such, without requiring buffs. And Naga can soak the Dark Shrines, as shown right there under me with Fort Defense Res, Hone Flyers, Defense Res Link, and Smite. So they kind of all work together. I do think Divine Fang with a Hone Flyer seal would be amazing if we ever get that. Plumeria over here is able to support really well using Sabotage Defense. You can definitely interchange some things as well, like seal could be Flyer Formation, for instance. Or you could use maybe Sabo Attack if you think Altina will be more tanking rather than Vantage killing. If you have Lancina as the kicker, if you're running triple mythic, then that will really mean you don't have to run Heavy Blade here and could opt for like Fierce Stance, Sturdy Stance, or Mirror Stance instead to make Altina carry. Now this all does match up pretty well if you have, let's say, plus 3 Altina and then like a plus 3 Plumeria and then like a plus 3 Naga. So think of the merges as just a goal to achieve and try to line up merges equally so that you can soak chills. Bright and Dark Shrine, you have yourself a pretty good tank setup here in the form of Altina. Honestly, she can get the job done because look at that defensive spread. You want the defense IV, not the attack IV. Trait Fruits, thank you. And then the plus speed IV here with the plus res IV on Naga, and you have yourself like the ideal Astra comp, which will pretty much carry through most things. I mean, there's not that many units on defense that can blow through this. Really, there isn't. Especially with Plumeria's support through Flower of Plenty, Ward Flyers support, Distant Guard, even Drive Attack if you want to. This trio will end up being pretty good. You can definitely sub things out, like let's say if you don't have Naga, a double Plumeria can kind of work, or a double Altina where one Altina soaking for the other one. Definitely stuff you can interchange, but I think this trio merging up through the months will definitely make Astra much easier for you. With that being said, of course, as we're talking about how you want to use the Astra Mythics, I can't go without mentioning how they all rank, without the wind guys being there, of course. So, this is how I would definitely rank the Astra Mythics, probably to no one's surprise. Plumeria is by far the most flexible. You throw her into any composition and she works. Altina is harder to justify, but if used properly is definitely a very solid mythic. I always want to emphasize this. People think Altina is either a complete dud or really good. It completely depends, guys. Like, it completely depends. You have to either have her Gale Forcing, carrying, or possibly supporting, like you by soaking things, like a Silver Sword Altina, for instance, with Life and Death, can probably take off some Bright Shrines from another carry. Naga is completely a Divine Fang and support chill soaking bot. She's fairly useless, I'm gonna be real. If you can run a setup with double Altina and Plumeria, or double Plumeria with Altina, do it. Not at the cost of points or ranks, but definitely do it. Naga is pretty bad. I've run TA Naga myself and lost to Lif. It's sad. Okay, she doesn't have much combat performance. She's a flying dragon. Let the weaknesses speak for themselves. Thrasios in defense. Naga is a liability more than a boon for your team. So realistically, at the end of the day, Plumeria is a great addition for Astra, and what you can now do on Astra is much better than what we could have done before we had her. With that being said, guys, please let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below on anything I really talked about in the video. I gotta say, I don't even know what could come next at this point for offense mythics. I think Plumeria's release was a little bit too early. Astra had some challenge to it. Like, what are they going to release next that makes Astra better? Like, what hero could really... It probably just takes Naga's spot at this point, but if you have a merged Naga, you don't even want to summon for something like that. So I'm kind of interested to see what comes next. Let me know what you guys think, maybe some ideas. I'll check it out in the comments below. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Much love. Peace.